Hello, welcome back to Higher Density Living.
Let's go.
Feels good being here in the studio. It's nice and early. I'm feeling pretty chill today. Spent the weekend in Flagstaff.
What do you have over there in the corner? You can barely see. Is that like coconut or something?
Yeah, this is my coconut water. I walked in.
Whoa.
Dude,
It's like 365. That's like Whole Foods. What is that? $365?
Yeah, $365. I walked into Whole Foods and I was thirsty. So I got a 4-pack IPAs.
Perfect.
Obviously. Right? Obviously.
I'm all in on that.
And then
you've got my attention now.
Yeah, and then after the 4-pack, I'm like, well, that's going to make me more thirsty. Mm-hmm. So they had this over by the checkout, the coconut waters. So I stuck my hand behind the thing, and I just went like this, and just like cleared the shelf out. I had like 5 or 6 of these.
Are they good?
Oh, they're delicious. They're so good. And then when I was done with that, I was like, I need cupcakes. You should see my shopping.
Their bakery at Whole Foods is amazing.
It's so good. Mm-hmm. And so what did you think I did? It's all lit up nice. I'm like, I want that. That looks really good.
Their peanut butter cookies are amazing.
Oh.
They have vegan ones, I think, too.
I love peanut butter.
Yeah, but their regular peanut butter and the vegan ones are great. Chocolate chip cookies are good.
Whole Foods is the only place I've been to that has sprouted walnuts.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're alive.
They're alive.
With the sound of music.
Everything's alive.
Everything's alive.
I want to talk about this meeting you went to in northern Arizona called the Intergruppe für Missionwissen.
Yeah. Here, let me just read it out for you. Intergruppe für Missionwissen, Northern Arizona.
Is this some white supremacy thing? You're starting to speak
Well,
German?
no, actually, this is important. This is important that you asked me that. What it means is free community of interest. People just doing whatever the hell they want. If you're interested in it, pursue it. Okay. The central thing for the FIGU community is a creation energy teaching. Mm-hmm. No God, no hierarchy, no dogmatism or ideology. It's almost taking an approach of physics and what you see in nature around you, bringing those things together and defining laws, which then allow you to exist. Great stuff. Totally reasonable and straightforward. I was happy to go there. I got the invitation. Happy to go. It was a nice turnout over there in Flagstaff. Good community of people. Nobody, and I will share this, nothing about it. And you read on Wikipedia, like Billy Meyer, FIGU, like it's a cult. Nothing about it's a cult. Of
course. Yeah.
Not one fucking iota is a cult. No one's worshipped.
I always say take the UFOs out, take the ray guns and the hot blonde chicks or whatever.
They're smoking hot.
Yeah, take all that out of the picture.
Yeah.
Even though there's a whole thing with whites and blondes, we'll have to do a podcast on that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, have you heard of the Taos hum?
Yeah. We can go over it.
Well, we're going to do it now, but I have a whole thing on it. The UNM did studies on it.
Many studies have
engineering.
Yeah. Since people,
it's got to be some military thing underneath.
Yeah.
And then it's just creating, all the machine work.
Go ahead. Make your point.
So I want to fuck that point. Here's what I want to get into. You have on the sheet of what you guys were doing, you have 7 Spirit teaching prayer, a speaking to oneself. So what is the creational teachings on prayer?
Yeah, so typically in a religion,
you're praying to a God.
You're praying to a God. You're praying to an outside external power, something that is decisive for your life. It decides things for you. You request things from it. You ask of it. Okay? This thing that in every way, shape, and form does not exist. No proof of it. Now, this right here, by the way, you can look up this online. All their stuff's online, totally open to the public, right? What do they have to hide? Nothing. Oh, and I will state this. Do you know how much the conference cost me? Goose egg, $0. Nothing charged. Completely free. All right? So no one can say, oh, yeah, you're paying in, like, someone's trying, it's a fucking racket, right? No, because if you pay in, you then start to establish a dominant hierarchy of this thing. So what's interesting here is that this 7 Spirit teaching prayer by the Nocodemion. When you talk about prayer is more of a function of discussion between your internal thoughts and having those with your spirit.
I like that. Yes.
So it's a communication of self to self. All right? You're not asking anybody else outside of you. You're not requiring some independent third party, because the goal here is to develop your own consciousness and to grow in your own sovereign power and connection with your spirit itself. So for the creational energy teaching, your spirit powers your body, much like everything else in this world, right? We're part and parcel of creation. So the idea here is that when I'm having conversations with the thing, I'm establishing a bridge between me and my physical vessel and my conscious thoughts with the spirit itself, which is timeless, right? You can't kill it. The thing just floats around. It goes from body to body to body over time. And then through there, I learn new things. And from that, I get to pull from the knowledge, wisdom, and love of this spirit, which it thrives on, and bring that into my daily waking life here as a human being. So the whole goal of these things is to, through their prayer, what you would call prayer, is only that conversation with the spirit, never with a God.
So it's having a conversation with your higher self.
That's all it is. That is all it is.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just was doing it on the way here, driving, with my eyes closed.
Does that make you religious? No,
not
in any way, shape, or form.
I think also, like, a lot of people are asking for things in prayer, which the only thing you should ask for is like guidance and wisdom.
Yeah, because
from your higher self. But other than that, like asking for a Lamborghini
for money or a better relationship. Let me share something here. The spirit is something that sits outside of time. Okay, it's not bound by it. It's completely non-physical. So when you ask it for physical things, what a stupid, illogical. It's like talking to a brick wall and asking it for help. It's not going to do anything. No, it's conceptually not there. It's also not even within that realm. But if you say, share some points of love, knowledge, wisdom, concord, peace, like bring those energies into me, give me those impulses, you're going to get it in droves.
Well, the main question, the only prayer you should be asking really is, regardless of the outcome, what lesson can I learn?
Always.
Can you reveal the lesson to me so I can evolve?
Yeah. Like, why are you even asking the question?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like that's the only thing is to learn. Like, and then who cares about the fucking outcome?
Who gives?
But we always want, that's the prayer we have. It's like this narcissistic, selfish prayer.
Yeah, all the time.
This materialistic, like, I need this, and God, I need you to help me. Oh my God, help me with this interview today. Well, maybe you don't need that job and you don't have the foresight to see that. Who are you?
Exactly. And now here's an interesting part. So say, for instance, in a very cult religious doctrine, right, like the church, they ask you to pray to God, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, first of all, if I have things in my consciousness that I can't reconcile because I don't want to go through the work of doing it, I go into confession. Because God has already determined I'm a sinful person. I'm going to burn in hell if I don't do anything right.
A loving God has determined that.
Yeah, a loving God has determined that. So I go and I sit down with the priest. We're both in our boxes, right? He's probably piddling with himself, and then I'm over here like, dumping my conscious thoughts on him. And I'm feeling good, right? Because he's that wall I can talk to. Mm-hmm. And then this dude who's speaking on behalf of this God, because you're not in connection with it, right? You can't speak to God, but he can. He's closer. He can determine the stuff. He can decide what's appropriate for you to
So
pray.
much separateness, bro.
It's incredible.
Hierarchical.
So after you've dumped that here, right, and not gone through the thoughts yourself, he's going to say, okay, I need you to go give me 5 of these and 6 of these prayers. First of all, where'd that number come from?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the prayer for? And how does this resolve the things that are happening in my conscience? It doesn't. I forget about it. What happens is I just bury it because I told it to someone else, and now I'm going to distract myself giving a dog shit prayer to this independent, totally obfuscated, non-existent third-party tin God that's floating around somewhere, and then ask that thing for salvation.
This is the same thing I get pissed off with abundance teachings and stuff like that, where it's like ignoring, or even like oneness teachings in the sense of where they're like, oh, yeah, I told you this before. Oh, my son died, but we're all one, so I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to, it's that suppression. It's the same thing. Or the abundance teaching is like, I'm super poor. I have nothing, but God willing, I'm going to be rich.
Exactly.
It's that bullshit, which a lot of religion, which is funny to me.
Cult religion. Be very clear.
Cult religion. A lot of cult religion wants to negate your free will and have you not take responsibility.
Yes.
Same with government. It's the same thing as force.
Well, the government is a cult religion. Government's a cult, politics, corporations.
We turned it all into
cults.
one thing.
All this shit's cults.
It's like Christianity in America now is just right-wing.
It's just right-wing extremism.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's nothing else.
I mean, you ask most people, they don't know the Bible. They don't know anything. It's like Trump's their God. And
think about this, too. One nation under God.
Yeah.
Who's God?
Yeah.
And then they're like, you need to be a patriot.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like a crusader?
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to? If I'm not doing it, because I'm not doing it for the church, I'm not a crusader. But because I'm doing it for the United States, I'm a patriot.
But what church? We always talk about there's a Starbucks on every corner. Dude, you know how many churches there are?
Dude,
there's I think there's 48 churches to one Starbucks.
It's wild.
So there's Lutheran. I mean, not only do you have, you were in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So in Switzerland, they have Protestants, which has a rooster on top.
Yeah.
And then they have Catholics, which has a cross.
Right.
Those are symbols. We're going to get into that here.
There's also steeple taxes too. So some of them didn't have anything on the roof.
But you go into the churches and they're empty, like in
no one's
Switzerland. Yeah. I mean, you go to like Mexico, Portugal, like a lot of Spanish, Italian. They're packed, because they still have the Catholic Church still has a hold, and we've talked a lot about it.
They also have the highest population densities in those areas.
I was thinking about this the other day. This is so funny. I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
If you have a all-knowing, omniscient, all-loving God that's at the highest level that could be
of perfection.
Let's take a theology view, a Christian theology view.
Yes.
So you have this God that's in heaven that is absolutely perfect. He has no sin, no nothing, right? But he's all loving. Like in the Bible over and over again, it talks about God being all loving. Why would he send somebody to hell that rejects him? Now, people would be like, well, it's because of our free will.
No, he's all loving.
But if he's all loving, why would he respond to rejection?
Yeah, and why?
In a punitive way.
He would not be punitive, and he would not.
An all-loving being would not be.
He wouldn't punish
punitive.
you for your sins.
He would love you more.
Why would it punish you for your sins?
He would show more mercy and more grace.
I got a better thing for you. Ready for this? Because I'm going to double down on what you said. This thing is perfect and all loving, right? This God you supposedly have. Not you, but I'm talking about all these cults that are out there. Why do you exist then? What's your point?
Yeah, I don't need you.
He's already perfected things.
Yeah.
So what's the point of your existence?
Mm-hmm.
You have a null existence. The interesting dynamic here with
Unless you want a puppet master.
Yeah, correct. The interesting dynamic here with the creation energy teaching is that creation is relatively perfect. What was the key word I just said there?
Relatively.
That's exactly correct. It is always learning. It is, of course, greater than we are because it allows us to exist because of that energy, but it is imperfect.
That's why you have the learning.
That's why we exist, because it learns through us.
Right.
Like saying, I observe Jason. Jason goes through his life. Mm-hmm. I recognize the things that he does well and what his mistakes are. Just from observation of Jason, I can learn some things about myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that in the largest macro process. I'm going to send out all these little spawns, human beings. They're going to go out and learn.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sharp with my energy. I know much, but I don't know all. So it's important for me to go out there and continue to grow that base of knowledge, love, and wisdom. And the only way people can do that is through the infinite variation of lifetimes and interactions of people with the cosmos itself. Track?
Yes. So, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
Now, a God wouldn't need that thing to occur. God would say, hey, I got it down packed. Just don't fuck up what I already did, because you were made perfect, but then because of somebody else, you're imperfect.
So let me ask you this. So these teachings that you've pulled from, Billy Meyer,
sure,
basically like channel material is what I look at it as.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but
no, you're great. You're good.
So channel material from, higher beings coming down as like, I view Billy Meyer like a Rudolf Steiner, Carl Jung, and all those.
Yeah, anyone pulling stuff down.
Yeah, all that stuff. Madame Blavatsky or whatever. But
Blavatsky.
Blavatsky, yeah.
Blavatsky.
But all of that is all like channel material. So my question is, what is the difference between creational teachings, higher self?
Single teaching.
Yeah, creational teaching, higher self, and atheism. Because atheism doesn't believe in a God.
Yeah, so here's the interesting part about atheists. Atheists just think you have an existence and it ends. Okay? Life is just physics and science, or what they know of physics to its extent, and then nothing occurs past that. There is no, what I would say, supreme power. Now, the interesting dynamic here with atheism is that the human being has grown as an organism through evolution. It's here. We show up. Now, if you go over to the creation energy teaching, the human being has done the same exact thing. But what atheism misses is the other 50% of life that is also the greatest driver. And that's that consciousness evolution. Mm-hmm. That is the spirit itself. It's the aspects of reincarnation. And atheism is like, well, why would I come back? My consciousness has grown in this body. There's nothing else of it. And when this body fades, everything goes away. Now, if you take this back even further, say you were an atheist, what would then be the hopeful point of evolution itself or even living in existence? Mm-hmm. If there's nothing to happen or occur after the fact when the body ceases to exist, then what is the whole point of life at all?
Yes.
Now,
100%.
What they are also missing in atheism is that, yes, you have evolution at a genetic and cellular level. It happens over time. And those things store memory. Now, everything in life, which we've seen through the law of opposites, says that, okay, if I'm going to have something physical, something non-physical must exist too, right? Occupation of like different spaces within those different elements. So if my consciousness is here and my body is evolving, then the consciousness, in the idea of its thoughts, which are non-material, it must evolve too. Because in this, what is perceived as nothingness has to evolve. And that's a very difficult concept for people to wrap their head around. But for the atheists, they're like, yeah, we don't need a God. I just live the life and I die. I'm like a tree that goes away. Well, if you observe trees, the roots continue to live through the winter, but the top dies and they regrow. And you see it over and over and over. So no God is required in the creation energy teaching. It's just a function of energy. And as we know through physics, what the atheists also see is that second law of thermodynamics, energy is just changing form. It can't dissipate. If energy went away, then the universe or the creation which we live in would cease to exist altogether. And then the question is, well, how much time do you have left?
Right.
So these are some of the fallacies that sit within atheism itself, because they're almost there, but there's 50% of the picture that actually allow the existence to occur and observe the things which are observable and non-observable, because there's two types of evolution, Jason. Now, in our life, we're very good as human beings at evolving what already exists. So what version cell phone is that?
Like 15 plus.
Fantastic, which means there were 14 before, correct?
Yeah.
And we'll continue to evolve that thing because it already exists. We see it, we can feel it, it's tactile, it's tangible. The other part of evolution is to assemble things which are yet to be discovered.
Yes, yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
so now when you talk about the cosmos and we have this Big Bang, everything has already exploded. All of our material, everything is already here for us to take and grab and reassemble. You track? Planets to coalesce or stellar dust to turn into suns or stars and whatever distant place in the cosmos itself, but they need to be reassembled over time. And for us, we need to there's principles that allow us to exist, but we ignore many of them, which causes a lot of the strife in our world. Now, if we can go and reassemble these things that are out there, like love and peace and wisdom and concord and harmony, right? And we can bring those things together, we can evolve into things that don't currently exist yet, like world peace, right? We don't have that. We evolve into the stuff that is there, but needs to be assembled into something which we can then evolve further. So evolution sits in two formats. It's the things which you see, which are very material, which evolves, like the body and objects we create, and also the things that are very immaterial, but still exist, but we have not discovered it yet as human beings. So we evolve down both of these paths congruently at the same time. And to take that a step further, when you think about the concepts of cult religions, right? Religion, in its purest aspect, is to look at where is the point of origin which we come from as human beings? What are the points in time which we work through? Factually evident, okay? That's religion. Its definition through its Latin roots deal with a backlinking nature. So if you think about a chain through time, those chains have certain links. Think about big moments in time. These are factual points in time, all brought together and cannot be pulled apart. It's very straight.
And that's traditionalism.
Right. And that's the purest form of religion, is to understand those points of origin. Now, when you get into cults obfuscate those chain links in time. And they say, oh no, this is really what happened here. Because they want to develop certain power structures and control that narrative. Okay?
Well, it's not only just like really what happened, it's taking this point of history and then turning around and make it have more meaning than what it actually was.
Exactly. So now you start to obfuscate the truth, which isn't fundamentally helpful. Yeah. It doesn't help evolution. But as we know,
it's worshiping the past.
That this is exactly correct. And when you worship the past, you're stuck in one idea of evolution of just fixing upon what you already know, okay? Or only half know. That is religion in its purest sense. Cult religions come in and do that thing you just talked about. But then what is going to be the word that actually talks about the assembling of these things going forward in time, which exist but are yet to be discovered for us as human beings, okay? Like we're finding new elements yet to be discovered. That's a very material thing, but I want to give that as a metaphorical example. So the other part of religion is this thing called religion. Now, religion is this assembling, this reassembling over time of things. Now, this word is a Latin word, but you're not going to find it in dictionaries. So let me bring you through really quick how this develops, okay?
So this word's not in dictionary. Is it in Latin dictionaries?
Yeah, it is only part of it. So let me explain how this occurs. So Legos, do you ever play with them?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Building blocks, yeah.
Exactly. What do you do with your building blocks?
You build things.
Yeah, you assemble
structures.
Do you assemble things together?
But it's things that we imagine.
Here's my point. Lego's a Latin word. Fantastic word for the toy itself. And it means to lay or to assemble. Now, relego, which means to relay or reassemble something. Now, when you're reassembling, that means something exists, but you're putting it back together. Now, if we consider the Big Bang and moving forward in time, because that's what evolution does, it moves forward, our religion tells us where we come from, but our religion tells us where we're going forward and what we need to assemble, right? What we need to discover. Now, when someone talks about large points in time, like large periods of time, they call them eons, right? Also a Latin word. So now if you pair the word releg or relego with eon, okay, so the reassembly and also time, you get the reassembly or the relayering of things over time. So now you have a perfect counterpart of evolution, because there's two types of evolution, right?
Right.
One of evolving what is already existing and what is yet to be discovered. And that way you get religion in its purest sense and its absolute exact counterpart, religion, which is on the other sense, which pushes forward, almost taking a right-hand path, and religion takes that left-hand path. Bringing those things together gives you unity and understanding of your own personal evolution. You tracking here?
Yeah. No, the only question I have is whenever we're looking at all of these measurements, it's all third density.
That's correct. Yeah, so, measurement is third density.
Yeah. So whether we talk, an eon is a third density term. All these Latin terms that you're talking about are all third density. They don't have any relatives. Once you hit fifth density, none of these things matter.
Yeah. So for us,
like who at a fifth density being, if you said religion to them, are they're not going to. They're like unity. Like, I mean, they'll understand it obviously because Ra talked about religion and stuff like that. But they look at it such a third density, archaic type.
Well, yeah, for us,
basic principles.
We usually look at things in a monoframe format, single frame. But we don't see the other side of things. Humans are bad at it, but everything has its double, right? It has to have its opposite. So something of a higher dimension, okay? Say, for instance, your spirit. Your spirit is there amassing that stuff that exists when you discover it personally in your material format. It needs to continue to evolve because the greater part of creation needs you to go out and do that searching. Evolution occurs for all things at all levels, even to the highest point, which is this energy. And in the creation energy, the energy itself needs to refine further.
Yes.
And in order to do that, it has to amass a greater resonance. Now,
those are important words. I had a dream like this where it was me in a pyramid in different levels simultaneously at the same time. And each of those levels were densities and they each had different resonations.
Yeah, correct.
But there was me in different forms.
Very cool.
Yeah, like spirit form, like.
Now, here's the element of this. When you go to sleep and you have a dream,
right?
Time goes by fairly quickly. You're like, shit, the alarm's already going off. Now, I want you to imagine always being in that dream state.
Yeah, of course.
So now what you're doing is you're starting to live in a world of the spirit, okay, where time is quite relative.
That's good, yeah.
But time does have to exist in some extent. It does get measured, even though something is infinite. Infinite is still a measure, okay? So when I take these things about religion, this measurement of time, yes, in our third density aspect of our bodies, we are measuring this thing. It is very measurable. It is a third density term. But communication is also a requirement of that because this mic is measuring my vocal tones. It's doing all these things so you can understand what's going on. But for the spirit, they sit, in a sense, outside of this material time.
Right.
But time still passes.
Yeah, but you can, whenever you have no bodies to drag you down, Quo talks about this. Whenever you have no bodies to drag you down, whenever you're using pure sunlight to travel and to move in, and you have an abundance of energy,
Yep.
So just think about human beings, no bodies, just spirits floating around, unlimited.
We'd evolve
eternal,
so fast.
And as much energy as you could use.
So you'd evolve at accelerated rates.
100%.
It'd be incredible. Your access to knowledge would be just so superb. But there's still like religion and all this bullshit would be like a blip. It would just, we would evolve past that in because
2 seconds.
Because the material existence, which accounts for much of religion, is about this big. All of creation is so massive. So you're right, it is a blip.
But you have to understand the focus. When you walk into a Catholic church, you see a physical body on a cross.
Yes, you do.
The focus of the physical sacrifice, a human sacrifice. When you, and this is why, and we'll get into this, but maybe we'll do another episode or we can do it on this one. I don't care. But the symbols aspect of things, when you look at that, that's a symbol.
Yes.
When you look at a man on a cross or Jesus or whoever you want to call it on a cross, or you look at Mary and she's holding Jesus' lifeless body, when you walk into church, you see these things. We could go right over here. We have a beautiful church here in Santa Fe.
Very nice one.
You can walk in it, beautiful doors,
Great.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is based off of like third density, materialistic, humanistic type. The whole premise, all the symbols all around that religion, at any Protestant, is all based off of like super limited. Mm-hmm. It's almost gross if you really think about it in a higher spirit. If you think about it if how our spirit was thinking, it'd be like, what the hell?
That's why I pair, just in my own personal life experience, I give large amounts of respect to the FIGU community and the creation energy teaching itself, because in a very rational, logical sense, it talks about the things that are of greater importance and always pulls you out of these ideas of things that are temporal, like coffee cups in life.
They're great.
They're great.
It's awesome.
But they don't exist forever.
No, and it's a temporary means to, it's a third density cause and effect.
Right. So
we were talking about that on text, but that coconut water, that coffee, it's just cause and effect.
Right.
It's of no significance. Your spirit doesn't care if you have coffee this morning.
That's right. And so what's nice about this stuff and the community is that they're always dipping back into reminding you of the things that exist forever. Only the shit that's important.
Dipping that toe into the universal stream.
That's right, dude. The eternal,
I love it.
That eternal wellspring. And it's really, really cool. And
people always ask us what we smoke before the podcast. It's like in every comment. I'm like, I don't do like nothing.
I'm not smoking shit.
I mean, I have 0 sugar Mountain Dew. This is really bad for you.
You know what it is?
That's a drug.
Do you know why they ask that?
Because
they're not spending the time to actually pursue thoughts of.
You have coffee. That's about the only drug.
Yeah, of like deep metaphysical nature.
We've never done like weed or anything and had a podcast.
No, and then many people that we haven't, and many people that come to listen to this and say jump into you and I. We've been doing this for years. If you jump into it like right now, you're gonna be like, these guys are high as a kite.
Yeah.
But what you haven't done is you haven't taken the time to learn and assemble a foundation for yourself to get to the point of being like, oh, I understand the nuances of what's going on here. And you and I tried to do as best we can to bring it down to a regular level. So if anyone does jump in right now, something can always be applicable.
You know what's really interesting? YouTube labeled us, because YouTube gives you like tags, labels, and stuff.
What they call us?
Beginners for spirituality.
How cool is that?
That was like a compliment.
Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah.
That's a massive compliment.
Yeah. I was like,
we're trying to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah. I was like, this is super cool.
Yeah. And
this is what I want.
What's funny about the church, right? And you talk about these symbols. Symbols are a big deal. There were some presentations on symbols too.
You want to do this in another episode or do this one now?
No, we can just do it right now. Okay. Yeah. So symbols are a cool thing. Do you remember that? We did quite a few on Tartle. Remember that?
Oh, we did a shitload.
Yeah. So in the simplest format, let's start with this. If I go into an art museum, okay?
Right. I'm pulling this up, but go ahead.
There's usually people in a very multinational format that are going and also viewing said art, which is famous. Now, for me, when I'm in there, I don't know all the languages these other people speak. It's difficult for me to communicate them. I'd have to use like hand gestures, right? Or ask somebody to translate, correct? But what's the unifying factor when it comes to art is that multiple people can stand there with multiple different backgrounds and multiple different languages and cultures and everything else. and still be moved and feel the energy
Yes.
of the painting itself or the art, right, or the sculpture, whatever it might be. And that's the beauty of art. Now, art, distilled down even further, goes into this idea of symbols, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm going to almost remove the artistic nuances that would allow me to say that this is this fresco I'm looking at here was done by Michelangelo, right? Or this oil painting here was done by Monet. These are the artistic differences, and when I strip those away, symbols in their purest form translate very easily anywhere across the cosmos.
Yeah,
because their function, they're linear functions of line and geography and simple primary, colors, which is the thing that we all experience, but is a very universal language within itself. And art is this greater expression of symbols, and much art has symbols that sit within it. It's almost like these smaller, more perfected, pure forms that are within this really cool art. If you go back to any of the Renaissance or Reformation art, when they're like painting the days of like Jesus Christ, there's tons of symbology in it.
Oh, 100%.
Leonardo da Vinci used it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They have their flavors of what makes them fantastic master artists. But the symbols are the things that are universal that carry themselves through time.
Yeah, it's Da Vinci Code.
It's Da Vinci fucking Code.
Yeah.
So why did you want to talk about
It's Da Vinci Code.
So why did you want to talk about
No, Carl
symbols?
Jung talks about this. He said we live immediately only in the world of images. Keyword immediately. We live immediately.
Yeah, before I even hear anything, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, exactly. And so the word symbol comes from the Greek word symbolion, I think is like symbolion, which means to throw together, to join together.
Oh, really? So the Greeks have a word for joining things together.
Yeah,
This is funny how this is very non-coincidental, huh?
This is why.
It's very synchronistic.
So
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's conceptual. It's something composed, the visible, something of an invisible, an ideal reality. So it's the consequence of everything that exists in the world. Everything that we experience means something. It has a deeper meaning. And so he went crazy. He wrote a whole book on symbols, but he almost went
Jung
crazy.
did?
Yeah, going through this Freudian, where Freudian reduced everything to like, you just want to fuck your mom.
Yeah.
To the point of like, Carl Jung's like, we have a higher meaning, we have a consciousness level, and he talked about it. There's some really cool YouTube videos of him in his later years. They made a video where they interviewed him, and he gets into this.
Does he speak well? I've never heard him talk.
Oh yeah, we'll have to watch it.
I've read his stuff. I've never heard him talk.
He speaks English really, really good, but
well, better than you, because he would have said I speak English really well.
I like that. That's so good.
English is Jason's fourth language.
I get this all the time on here. Yeah, I'm just a big dumb ape. So
I love it.
So with Freudian analysis, he looks at it as like he was big into symbols too, but they were ascribed as sexual meanings or message.
His shit was all phallic stuff.
Well, it's almost like the atheist.
Yeah.
Paired to...
It's only 50% of the picture.
Yeah.
Evolution says procreate and continue the existence. So everything we do drives back to this idea of survival.
That's evolution psychology. It's like, I just listened to a lady the other day, which I do enjoy evolution psychology, but it only paints one part
side.
of it.
Yeah.
It's like doing a painting with one color. It's beautiful, but it's just one color.
Correct, yeah.
So this lady talked about love, and she's like, well, basically, we've evolved to have these feelings, and they're just little pumps and neurons.
See, she's only looking at love in the aspect of chemical reaction.
Yes, yeah.
Bitch, I got tons of oxytocin.
Where Jung saw symbols as a representation of the archetypes. These archetypes are collective inner images. Well, before we get into this, he says there's two different things.
Okay.
There's signs and there's symbols.
All right.
Like a stop sign, we know what that is. We know what to do. It's very, very simple.
I understand.
Like a sign is a symbol is an evolving.
Yeah.
It changes you. It has a drastic effect.
So,
like example,
Yeah,
because I've been thinking about this example with like Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mermaid.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, now the sign of Starbucks is I can go in there and get coffee.
Yeah. Captain Starbuck.
The symbol of that is, and I forgot the lady's name, the mermaid. It is Melusine.
Melusine, yeah.
Melusine, and she, her historical roots are the mermaids or the sirens, the hot chicks that drive you into the rocks, drive your ship into the rocks. Right. Or they'll take you underwater.
In Homer's Iliad or Odyssey, you're jumping off the ship to swim to the island, but you die when you were there.
Yeah, and what's the dude that solved it all? Like he was able to...
By stuffing the wax in the ears.
Yeah, and then they put him on, they tied him up.
Tied who up?
Who was it? Everybody's talking. It wasn't Jason Argonauts. It was... for the Homer, the main dude.
I got to go back and look now.
I got to look. Because the whole idea was he had to go all around, do all this bullshit to try to get to his wife.
Yeah.
And there was when he got there, he finally gets to his wife, and his wife has all these suitors and lovers, and he has to kill them all. This is wild. I like the Greeks. But
signs and symbols. Go back.
Yes, but symbols are, when I look at that, it's a siren.
Yes.
When I see that symbol, it's like, oh, okay. So like Jung would look at it like in a meaning of, there are those women that can ruin you financially.
And it starts with
physically. We all have friends. We've all had it happen to us. Yeah. Or we've all had friends that have been in love with a siren.
It starts with those $10 Starbucks lattes. Every day, 365 days a year, and you are bankrupt.
Yeah, you are bankrupt.
That's
the whole symbol. But the symbol is really cool because it's a cautionary tale, to not lose yourself and like give to somebody that's just taking advantage. And then now I can look at that and then kind of be more cautious. Yeah, I'm going to be loving, but I'm also going to. So like a symbol, like you can look at the cross, right? That could be a sign, just period. Boom, it's a cross, blah, blah, blah. Or you could look at it as an example of Jesus, who was a fourth density being. And for me, when I see a cross, it's like it's self-sacrificial, unconditional love. And he wasn't a racist. In a time even went against the Romans and stood up against the Jews and religion.
It's the cool part about a symbol.
When I look at that symbol, it gives something to me.
All right,
does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's take a step back here. You talked about signs like road signs.
Yes,
road signs have an agreed upon definition.
Mm-hmm.
All of us can look at it and say, stop means stop, okay? Or an exit sign on a highway.
Mm-hmm.
Or in German, it's called Ausfahrt, right? So whatever it might be, you look at it and we have an agreed upon understanding of how our consciousness is going to look at that symbol and how we react to it, okay? That's a sign. That's a sign. Now, the interesting part about symbols is that they're neutral. You could put a cross. I don't care if it's right side up, upside down, or sideways.
Well, even that has different.
No, here's my point.
Symbols.
Here's my point. The symbol itself, because it is neutral, gives my consciousness an opportunity to look at the impulse received from it, like me staring at a piece of art, and teach me something.
That's exactly right.
I will pull out of a symbol only the specific things that need to be pulled out of it at that time. I can't pull anything beyond my understanding. I can only pull things in that seem novel or give me the impulses to recognize a symbol, unbiased from anybody else's interpretation, and use it for me. So when I see Starbucks, my heart rate goes up and my bank account drops.
Right.
Okay? That's specific to me. But that's the interesting part about symbols. But in reality, if I just looked at it, I've never been to Starbucks, I'm like, okay, it's a woman on the symbol.
Right.
It means nothing. But over time, through the impulses you receive or the actions you take around those symbols, meaning is developed personally for you.
Yeah, he also says this, and I think this is interesting. This is coming from his symbols book. Jung connects the formation of symbols with the tension of opposites and the resulting transcendent function. So this is from his book. He's actually saying this. The shuttling to and fro of arguments and effects represents the transcendent function of opposites. The confrontation of the two positions generates a tension charged with energy and creates a living third thing. Not a logical stillbirth in accordance with the principle teritium non datur, but a movement out of the suspension between opposites. A living birth that leads to a new level of being, a new situation.
Okay, cool. All right.
So he's putting a lot on a symbol.
I know. Let me just break this down real quick because I heard what he said and I get it. I have this symbol here in my hand, okay? And for you, anybody here that's on camera, you can see this symbol. Now, Jason, describe in the simplest format, in a primary format, what you see here.
A book and a sun.
Okay. Now, those reside inside of what?
Circles.
Very good. You're doing great. And that circles resides inside of what?
The circles reside inside of what?
Yeah.
A book? Like
Oh.
Oh, yeah, the square. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What are these little lines?
Yeah, exactly. So I have these things that are there. Now, if a symbol didn't exist inside this space, which is this black square, and I'll show it here on camera again, I would just have nothing, correct? So in order to get to the appropriate definition, which Jung is talking about, the second something is put here inside this square, a line, a circle, a book, a color, space is occupied. So now I have an opposite nature of things. I have an emergence. Because in nothingness, something has now occurred.
Yes.
Okay?
I like this.
So within the symbol, you have a birthing of some sort of other thing that otherwise wasn't there in a nothingness. Okay? It's emerging. And the more things I add in here, the more space they occupy. And the opposite nature of their occupancy is that as they take up space, then there's less null space that was there in the first place. So his description of it is really, really correct. And the same thing happens in your mind when observing it. I didn't see this symbol at first. So there's a nothingness. Then when I observe it, space becomes occupied. There's an emergence in my mind of an idea and a birth of something. There's a motion that occurs through the energy of a symbol, because now the symbol implants itself, and the impulses when I receive it are changing my conscious thought patterns.
But I think that's what's the key is the symbol is hitting the consciousness.
Yes, precisely.
So it's
correct.
transcending
But it can't do that unless
thought.
there's an opposite nature that occurs.
Yes.
Something has to emerge out of the nothingness.
And I think what's really cool, kind of one of the things that he gets into is self-regulation of the psyche. And it starts from the emotion and then shows itself in fantasies and symbolic formations. And this is why, and he writes this in 1929, he says, the conflict forms, so to speak, a miniature self-contained psyche, which develops a peculiar fantasy life of its own. What we call fantasy is simply spontaneous psychic activity.
Yeah.
Listen to this part. This is really good about sleeping and dreaming. And it wells up wherever the inhibitive action of the conscious mind abates, or as in sleep, ceases altogether. In sleep, the fantasy takes the form of dreams. But in waking life, too, we continue to dream beneath the threshold of consciousness, especially when under the influence of repressed or other unconscious complexes.
Okay, so no matter what, your subconscious can't stop.
It's a symbol creating machine.
Yes, and as we're walking around obfuscating our life with bullshit,
Yes.
these natural symbols that exist, the processing happening in our subconscious, we're ignoring it.
Yes.
Now, the cool part about it is that this spontaneous mental activity is always occurring, which means that in your mind, Jason, you're dealing with these symbols. And in your dream states, if you can remember them, most of it is symbol. Because the dream isn't talking to you in language, it talks to you in something more universal. If I'm sitting here on the mic and I'm having a discussion about something.
Well, the sign would be, if it's not a symbol, it's going to be a sign, and a sign is too simple.
Yeah.
Like a sign is like, oh my God, I just got a sign from God.
Yeah, correct.
And so I need to do this. Like that's not evolving.
No, it's not evolving at all. Now think about this nature. When I sit here behind the mic, some people do not know the words that I use. The dictate, the words I'm using, sometimes are just outside of the words they know. That's not helpful, is it? Now, if I was
here.
This is why you're here. This is what I mean.
You have like 30,000 word vocabulary. I have a 300, so it works perfect.
Right. So now if you consider that element, within the dream state. If there was just verbal talking occurring for the subconscious, things would be lost because your conscious self may not know that word. You track? It may not make sense. It's like having Alexander spew to you from your
But that's
dream
a good
state.
thing. That's not a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying
because there's learning involved.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that's where the benefit of the symbols come in.
Yes.
The spontaneous mental activity, even within the dream state, that continues to happen regardless of what is occurring.
Well, I think we need to look at, what Jung's thing is, like when you begin to really focus on symbols, see what they're teaching you, what they're learning, what you're learning, the whole idea begins to open up to like a whole different world. Like the focusing in the dream, when you get past the conscious and you're into the subconscious, like you're bringing in spirit.
Yeah, because spirit converses in this.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't talk like we do.
No.
but it can afford symbols that are recognized cosmically anywhere.
Yes.
Okay?
This is so cool.
And the cool part about symbols is that the symbols won't change with time. They are what they are. But our understanding of them, how we internalize the representation of the symbol changes for the human being through time.
Yes. Well, even like when you look at myths, language, science, religion, art, every area of culture that humans have created, there's symbolic form.
All of it.
I mean, even like I could go to Apple. Here's an apple. Here's an apple right here.
Yeah, here's a Google.
I could look at this and then Apple and Eve, Adam and Eve, or what is the tree and Satan. I mean, and that's all symbolism, mythical type stories. But even this apple, what does that mean?
Right. What about obelisks?
Yeah,
they had them in ancient Egypt. They got them in Washington D.C.
Everywhere. Yeah. And what is that telling us? And what is that? What is the symbol of that?
That's correct. What is the symbol of a cross? People are like, oh, that's holy ground. Yeah. Whether it be a church or a cemetery, right? There's symbols in it. Yeah. If I give you a middle finger, what's the symbology?
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is most Catholic churches are built on super spiritual vortexes or grounds. So that's what they did. They would buy it out.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah, it's like if something like majorly happened in that
especially
area, they would.
The Rosicrucians knew this.
Yeah, they talked about that.
Yeah, the Rosicrucians knew that.
Do you feel like so when it comes to symbols, and we've talked about this, and I want to kind of end in this. Psychological transformations, I believe, not only in the dream world, but in the real world, can be like he went crazy going into symbols. And then he came out on the other end and became a whole different person. He was his own. He was just Freudian. Everything was Freud. And he was writing books. And then he comes out after he understands symbols. He comes out. He's enlightened. He's a different being. Mm-hmm. Focusing on symbols in our spiritual daily, what does that look like? Like for you, whenever you're,
Oh, you talk about my practice?
Yeah, when you're online or when you're looking at things out in the world or you're at work. You're at the gym or whatever, you're with your wife. Like, what does that look like with symbols with you? Are you actively seeking them?
Yeah, constantly. Here's the funny part. I use symbols as almost like a recognition of proper pathway.
Yes, yeah, I'm on the path, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't associate myself with symbols that are de-evolutive in specific senses. Yeah. You'll never find me associating myself with a cross.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't do it.
There's too much baggage attached with this.
Symbols are very good guidance for me too.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, and think about this. I don't associate myself with the flag of the United States. I was born here. I'm a citizen here, but I have no interest in it.
Yeah, it's like the Buddha symbol, the Nazi cross.
Yeah,
it's just too much baggage.
You swastika.
Have that. Yeah, the swastika is an amazing symbol. It's been around. We have it here in some of the tribes in New Mexico.
Correct.
But you don't want to be using it.
Well, you don't want to use it in the inverted sense like the Nazis did.
Yeah.
So the original swastika, used by the Buddhist.
But religions kind of ruined the cross. Nazis ruined the fucking Buddhist symbol.
And that's what people do all the time. Yeah. Right. And so you can use them as guiding mechanisms. Now, for me in my meditations, as a personal point to the people which listen, I wait for symbols to come in. Mm-hmm. And then I say, okay, what do I want to take from that symbol? Mm-hmm. And I record them down. And the same thing happens why, I would write down my dreams. Because there's things to learn from them. And I can't pick it all up in the dream state, but I can remember it, write it down, and then analyze what has been written down. Mm-hmm, you track? Yeah. So that's how it affects me in my personal daily waking life. What about for you?
Same.
Look at your tattoos.
Yeah, they're all symbols, sacred geometry and stuff. But it's the same, like you said. Here lately, Higher Self has been talking over and over and over again. Being on the path means you showing love, Jason. That's the highest vibration. That's where you go towards. When you're not showing love, you're not on the path. And so I've been seeing like heart chakra symbols, lots of hearts, and those are all just like when you look at a heart or you look at a chakra symbol in the heart, all of that, even with going to fourth density and green ray, all of those things, there's like an awakening that happens, and it even gets to the point where I can feel it emotionally.
Lovely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, like last night I had, for instance, at nighttime, sometimes I get really irritated and I don't know why. And I've been asking my higher self, like, like, what's the deal here? It's like, I want to watch my shows and don't touch me. Don't fucking talk to me. Don't do shit. I just want to, and there's like this resentment or anger or something. So I'm trying to do the shadow work and find out, like,
I'm just going to take a rip. You ready?
Yeah.
All day long, I ask you to do things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at night.
Yeah, but you don't ask a lot.
No, but hear me out. And then at night, when you go to do isolated self-studies.
Right. That's what I do.
But at the same time, your spouse is saying, hey, can we
pay attention to me?
Yeah, can we have some attention together? Because you've been giving it to your work all day long.
Yeah.
I can see how you would get agitated.
Yeah, but it's like, but how can I demonstrate love? There's obviously, I should not, when there's a reaching over to hold me or hold my hand.
Yeah.
Rage should not pop up.
No. I'll tell you this.
And I've talked to Lee about this, so I don't mind talking
I'll tell you this, bro. There's plenty of time to live, learn, and die.
Yeah. Millions of years.
So don't waste it being aggravated, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What is aggravation
if
anyway?
You miss 5 minutes because she wants to like be there in love with you, miss the 5 minutes.
But I mean, it's so funny because I'm studying to love.
I know, dude.
But then I'm irritated. It's like, everybody get the fuck out of here so I could do spiritual teachings. It's so fucking oxy. It's just knowledge. Then there's no wisdom. There's
this one time, bro. I was having a great day. I was in like a meditation. I was doing a meditation on peace, right? I had the door locked and I had no idea Amanda was coming home. She's banging on the door again. I fucking blew up. And then,
did the dogs ever aggravate you? Like when you try to meditate?
And she said something like, I thought you were doing a peace meditation. Like, why are you acting like this? Dude, it was fun. And that's ripe fruit for like making me go to the next tier. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it was great. It was fabulous.
Yeah, no, it's so funny how those things, it's like, no. That feeling right now you need to alchemize that and learn from it. That's what I'm talking. Like the spirit's like, this is what we're talking about. Like,
this is exactly
this is why you're in a relarelationship with her.
That's why I'm laughing about it now because she also taught me something. And
100%.
You know,
I've tried to get peace. If it wasn't for you, I would have peace.
It's so funny.
It's that way in life. We're all that way.
Tis life. Yeah, tis life. Well, listen, everybody, thank you for coming in and joining us for this episode here on Higher Density Living. We want to thank our sponsor, QualityMazdaNM.com.
Yes.
If you're looking to buy a vehicle, get a good rate, have an educational buying experience in something that's actually built well, QualityMazdaNM.com. And our other sponsor, Tartle, Tartle. If you want to stop the man from taking the money from your data, you can go do it yourself. Go get that money back yourself.
Mark Zuckerberg is being cool here lately, though. He's like UFC fighter and all that shit.
He's gold chain.
He's got the big gold chain. Yeah, him and his wife love each other. So
chain's dope, though. I'll give it to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to have a conversation with him. He'd come on the podcast.
I think he would come on.
Tartle, probably, maybe. I would think. When we get to like, billions of dollars a company and we have this huge reach, I'm pretty sure he'd hop on.
Yeah,
I would love to talk about data privacy and what Facebook. I'm pretty sure he has answers for all that, but
he does.
He's just a corporate guy, but
we'll throw him some curveballs. When's the last time you talked to your higher self, Mark?
I trust Mark Zuckerberg over the Google guys. The CIA and Google is
want to know something?
The CIA and Google seems to be like 3-letter agencies at Google seem to be like they even call it Alphabet now or whatever. They're like in what do you do is when you mix all, like you're doing a recipe and you mix like the shortening and the sugar and making a cake with all that goodness that's bad for you. Yeah. Like when you mix it all together, that's what I feel like's happening.
Yeah. But they got it on high, in the
that's what's happening. Like Google's basically a government agency.
The stand mixers? They got that shit on high right now.
I feel like, I don't know, I may be wrong. Maybe one of the Google peeps want to come on, but
tell us how you're not, and I'm still not going to believe
Gemini makes me nervous, even though I use it every day and like it.
Yeah.
Don't play with my Gmail.
Yeah, don't fuck
with it. We use Gmail. We use the Google Workspace and all that stuff.
What am I going to use?
We're not.
Yeah.
Just kind of weird. Like, because the one dude was with the CIA and goes to all those meetings.
Yeah, dude.
Well, what's crazy? Bill Gates. We're going to be done. Maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, you sure about
Bill
this?
Gates is starting to build nuclear plants. We got to look this up. Yeah, let's get out of here.
Nuclear power. All right, I got to get out of here. Thanks, everybody. See you later.